What is up, everyone? This is Hater Radio. My name is Chris McLean. I'm here with my co-host Ian Gibson. How are you, Ian?
I'm doing good. I'm doing pretty good.
The moment has finally come. We have been waiting for this. I mean, we called for it minimum last year after the Texas A&M game, but you really called it after the Arkansas game 2 years ago. So just kind of unbelievable that it went on as long as it did. I think I was like buying into everything last year because they did win 4 games in a row. They beat good teams. They beat Ole Miss. They beat LSU. And like Billy Napier was capable of beating good teams. It's not like he wasn't. It's just he wasn't able to beat teams on the road, which, clearly with all the road losses that he had. And then he wasn't able to consistently beat good teams regardless. And he, it wasn't going to last. Like, they came into this year, losses to USF, losses to LSU, Miami, and then Texas A&M, and they were at 2-4. I'm surprised they didn't fire him after the Texas A&M game, but I guess because it was homecoming, they wanted him to get through that and then figure out stuff. But he still won the game, and we're not going to talk much about the game. Like what we're going to talk about Florida today is specifically about this. I don't even care about the game. Like there was some interesting things, but not anything worthwhile because now things have completely changed. But his whole like story, Billy Napier, his tenure at Florida will go down with the fact that he couldn't get an OC to call plays. There was some rumors that he tried to get Charlie Weiss Jr., but that didn't fall through, or that fell through, and he wasn't able to get anyone else, which is like you go after one guy and that was it. Like, come on. But I mean, I think most people knew after last year that he was basically the Walking Dead, unless like some miracle happened. But it was not going to happen. This team with him was never good enough to win 9-10 games. It never was. Like he miraculously won 8 games last year, and that was a miracle. The previous 2 years, he was 6-6 and 5-7, and like he just never was good enough. Like, I don't want to like belittle the man because he obviously seems like a very good person, but this game, college football, is all about wins and losses. If you're not winning, you're out of here. And like, Urban Meyer came to Florida and had a huge winning percentage while he was here. You look at someone like Kirk Cignetti, the guy's nothing but a winner wherever he's gone so far, and he continues to win even in a place like Indiana, which has never been a winner like ever in its entire 100-year history. And Billy did well at Louisiana, but I don't know. That was kind of like he outclassed the teams that he played by talent wise. Once he got to Florida where it was the talent level was equal, they weren't going to be able to outclass people because they didn't have overwhelming talent. They had like about the same, so they had to really scheme it up, and he just couldn't scheme up anything. I mean, you look at the Mississippi State game, and it's a microcosm for his whole career at Florida. You've got a third down, a 3rd and 1, where he calls a pass play when Jaden Baugh's been running like all over Mississippi State all day at 170 yards for the day. And then, the play is a crapshoot and just does nothing. It's a loss. So they have to punt the ball. And then Mississippi State drives down the field and is in position to win and throws a miracle interception to save Billy from losing his last game. And it was eerily similar to his first game against Utah where they did the exact same thing. So Billy got fortunate both times in his beginning and ending bookends at Florida. And it's poetic. And I tweeted that out right after it happened, and it really was. I don't know. I'm glad he's gone. I'm glad that he was there though, because he did kind of bring the recruiting level back to a certain level. I mean, there's talent all over this team. Vernell Brown III, Dallas Wilson, Jaden Baugh, DJ Lagway. Some of the offensive linemen have done pretty well. D-line, a lot of studs over there. Linebackers, you got Miles Graham, you got Aiden Childs, you got Jaden Robinson. There's a ton of guys on defense and a ton of DBs and secondary players that are just got a lot of play time on Saturday and because of injuries, and they look like studs. So, the defense is strong. It just was not equating. That talent level should have been minimum right now 6-1, 5-2 at worst, and they just couldn't do it. But Ian, I want to hear some of your thoughts. Exactly.
And I texted everybody. A lot of people obviously know I'm a Gator fan, and they know I've been very critical of Napier, and I have not let off after that Arkansas game. You can literally go back to that show, and I said I'm done, because that was that was when we reached the precipice of this. This is not working. And I seriously felt like, have you ever watched Lord of the Rings, specifically Return of the King?
Oh yeah, I watched all three.
Okay, perfect. So you'll get this. I seriously felt like Frodo after the ring was destroyed with Samwise, where he's just like, it's over, it's finished, it's done. Like, we went through that entire journey of pain and suffering and just hoping for it to end, and it finally ends. Now, whether we get consumed by the flames or the Eagles come and saved us, that doesn't matter. The point is, it's over.
Yeah.
It is honestly baffling that he outlasted some of the coach, James Franklin, Gundy, a lot of these coaches. It's a miracle he has lasted this long, because
those guys have had huge success too.
Exactly. Franklin was 3 minutes away from the national championship. Gundy was the greatest Oklahoma State coach in history, and he has one winning season, 2 bowl appearances, and has only beaten traditional Florida rivals twice in that span. He beat Tennessee his second year, and then Florida State last year. Never beat Georgia. Those games, besides last year, weren't even close. And it clearly showed that, and I've always said this, talent can only get you so far. I'm not saying you have to be a great coach, and even if you have an elite player, sometimes that can carry a bad coach. Case in point, Cam Newton at Auburn. But that team is really good. There's no denying it. And I've said it too. I said it to all the preseason things. I said, you would tell me, I would give a record, and you say, but this team is better. I went, exactly. But the coaching isn't. And This is an example of this season. The team does look great. There's clearly glimpses of a fantastic team that just gets bogged down by a 3rd and 1 bootleg when all you have to do is gain 1 yard and the game is over. And I texted you, I texted everybody. I said, Billy Napier went out the most Billy Napier way with a win despite his best efforts. He was literally trying to lose the game again. He couldn't close games out. It was everything that could go wrong did go wrong. The one bright spot was that recruiting did get better. But is that really what you want? To get these elite players to be wasted away on an at best 4 or 5 loss team. It wasn't worth it. I said it wasn't worth it. And I sipped the Kool-Aid a bit last year, but I always had that thing in the back of my head, like, don't forget how the season start, blown out by Miami and a bad loss to A&M. Again, I agree. I'm not trying to kick a dead horse, especially for a guy who is as genuine as him. But even from the very get-go, I was looking back at texts to my cousin from when that hire was made. I said, when has a Sun Belt or Group of 5 coach really panned out in the SEC? It's a completely different game. There's a big difference between winning in the Sun Belt and winning in the SEC. The talent, the coaching is at the highest possible level. There are no off days. There are no easy games anymore. Especially the doormat of the whole SEC for literally their entire history is now in the top 10 in the country.
Yeah.
This is where we're at. So, and by the way, one time he played Vandy, he lost.
It smoked. Yeah.
So, I'm glad it's over. If there's one thing to take from this, I'm not even going to make a prediction or a wish list of coaches because I've said it after Mullen. I'm not going to be impressed by a hire until they prove it to me. But the one thing, if Strickland is going to take anything from this, you have got to stay away from the group of five. It is just clear that as good as those coaches are, I'm not saying they're bad coaches, but some are built for big-time programs and some are not. Napier was an example. I think Napier will go back to like a group. He might go back to Louisiana. He might go to like Arkansas State, one of those schools, and can build them up and get them in the conference. UAB has a position open. He would probably fit in pretty good there, but he just was not meant for the swamp and he wasn't meant for the SEC. And it got to the point where I was saying he was the worst coach since Doug Dickey in the 70s, and it was getting to the point where I don't even know if Doug Dickey was this bad. That's how bad
it was. Worse, because remember the guy that was the last thing that he had been compared to was the guy that was there during World War II.
Yeah.
Like it's like almost 100 years ago that the level of ineptitude, and it's like, I don't know, it's clearly the offense was the problem this last like year or so. But the defense was a struggle for a while with Napier. Like it really wasn't until like halfway through last year that the defense started to actually like do something. And he kept hiring like guys that were not really Power 5 level coordinators to be the defensive coordinators. That Patrick Toney guy, he didn't even last like a full year at Florida. And then Austin Armstrong was not there very long either. He got essentially demoted when Ron Roberts got brought in. And Ron Roberts was clearly a Power 5 coordinator because he was at Auburn before that. So he had experience in like against like big time offenses. It's all Billy though, man. It's all like the whole thing that when he got brought in was like, oh, he's a CEO and he's going to be in charge of the operation and be meticulous and, use analytics. He didn't use analytics. He barely ever bucked the trend at all. There was a ton of scared money more than there was not scared money. Offensively, again, the offensive coordinator situation, he never brought in someone to be the play caller. And so he couldn't really focus on the operation of the team, and it struggled. I know people talked about it all the time where there were like points in games where he's like 50 yards down the field away from what the team is doing. And I'm just like, man, like, dude, like you are the head coach. You need to be there for decision-making when the team is operating. I don't care what you want to do, like on offense specifically, but you have to be the head coach. You cannot just like disappear. I don't know, man. It bothers me because it's like, we're both Florida fans, like I'm obviously older than you. And like, I've seen this team be extremely efficient and extremely awesome on offense. And this was never the case. No matter how well they did, they still had countless points in games where they just couldn't move the ball. The penalties, the false starts, the holdings, the like.
Not enough guys on the field.
Yeah, I mean, countless times. I mean, it was the same thing over and over again. It's like, I don't know, man. The guy just didn't learn a lesson. He didn't like figure things out. And it was his ego that got the best of him. And it's like, he kept saying, I call plays because this is what I'm good at. And I'm, I want to keep showing that. And like, dude, you clearly were not, because your offense since you were at Florida was in like the 60s almost the entire time you were here. It never got any better than that. So you cannot expect a team in the SEC to be in the 60s and to consistently win. This is not the Alabama teams of 15 years ago. That does not exist. Alabama does not exist like that anymore. Even Georgia doesn't exist like that anymore. Their offense has to throw the ball a ton to really score. Like this is a new day and age of offense. And if you're not throwing the ball consistently, if you do not have good schemes for your wide receivers to run routes that get them open, then you are failing as an offensive playmaker or play caller. And it was evident, like, from day one. Like, he never really showed anything of promise as far as a play caller. Like, I remember, like, when Anthony Richardson was coming out into the draft, and they were like going over his highlights and like going over like certain games. And I remember one guy, I can't remember which one he was. He was a podcast. I think he was a former scout or something. And he's watching the plays unfold, and he's just like, this offense is so elementary. Like, you know, he's like, I feel bad for Anthony because, like, he's obviously a decent player, but this offense is so terrible. And I'm like, man, that was like a guy that knew nothing about Florida, was not really like a huge like college football like scout, like analyst or anything. He just was like an NFL guy that broke down the NFL draft, and he was saying how bad it was. And it's like, man, like, I knew kind of then, and I was just like, I guess I overlooked it. I was also very excited about the recruiting. The recruiting seemed to really turn the page, which I will hand it to Billy. That was an amazing aspect of what he brought to the table. He was a really good recruiter, but he wasn't an excellent recruiter. And I think that needed to be the case here. But more so, it's really about play calling. Like, yes, it is recruiting, but it's also, it works hand in hand with play calling, because if you're not a good play caller or you don't have a good offensive coordinator, then you're not going to win at Florida. And it just never worked. I mean, it feels similar to Muschamp in a lot of ways, but Muschamp at least had an 11-2 season, you know, and like, really never had anything close to that.
That's again, the thing that is insane is those guys lasted in less time. Muschamp, McElwain, Mullen, with way better resumes. Even Zook.
Yeah.
Zook at least beat
Zook was good.
Like a really good Florida State team, and he had wins. It was like, yeah. And the last thing I'm going to say, and I remember George was telling me this too, and I agree. All of this could have been remedied if he just really did go out and get an elite coordinator like a Todd Monken. When Lane Kiffin was at Alabama, he didn't have to call the plays, because he literally could have been like, I'll sit back, oversee everything, let the OC do his job, and I'll just like recruit 5 stars. That's what Saban did. That's what Kirby Smart does. He calls defense though, but all of that could have been prevented. But again, it's hard for me to feel bad when it's his own bed that he made. He chose stubbornly over and over after 13 points, 17-point games. I will still be calling plays on a broken offense. There's so many times where a NASCAR driver runs into the wall where the owner has to be like, okay, it's not the equipment, it's not the car, it's not the crew chief, it's the driver.
Yeah, I mean, and we covered a lot of this. Let's just cover real quick. Who are your top like replacements? Give me like 3 that you are looking for list wise, and maybe like reasons why those 3.
So the 3 I'm going to get, okay. And I'm going to, brutally honest, I'm not really hoping, I'm not predicting, I'm not really expecting much, because 1, Strickland doesn't really have the best track record. And, 2, I mean, again, until they prove it to me, I'm not going to be, impressed. I'll take the bait and be like, yeah, the popular impressive choice would be Lane. And the thing though is like, has that ship sailed? I think their best shot would have been last year, but now, I mean, we'll see, because UF has a lot more money. is, no offense to Ole Miss, but has won a national championship and is kind of more of a recognized brand. They have upgraded facilities. This is the thing now UF can now entice people out. And there's no excuse anymore. They have the best facilities now. They have the best training facilities. There's nothing outdated anymore. They're upgrading the stadium, all that stuff. So you can pitch that to these guys. And I remember when we got Billy Napier, and I'm thinking, like, why are we going for these diamonds in the rough? You're the University of Florida with 3 national titles. Go get a coach that has proven himself. So Lane would be the, I guess, ideal choice. The other one now, given the circumstance, and I'm not saying I kind of want this, but the puzzle piece would fit James Franklin. I mean, you want to talk about a scorned guy going to a school. Franklin does have obviously a track record of rebuilding. Clearly, the problem is he will not win the big game. And the other thing is, too, Florida will not tolerate losing to rivals for long. You cannot go 0-3, 1-4 to Florida State, Georgia, Tennessee. That won't fly here. That maybe was okay at Penn State given circumstances, but that's not going to fly here. You have got to beat your rivals. And I mean, my third. Okay, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but this is the guy I've literally wanted since Dan Mullen was fired. I always wanted Matt Rule. Matt Rule turned around a Baylor program on the verge of the death penalty, got them to the Big 12 championship. He can clearly recruit in a state that is like talent rich. And I think if you put him in Florida, he could build up a good team. Ideally, that's who I might want to get, but I think that's wishful thinking right now because he seems pretty set at Nebraska. And that's the other thing with a lot of these coaches is like same thing with Lane Kiffin is that I don't know if there's a good enough reason for him to leave. But I mean, that would be my 3. There's been other ones like Marcus Freeman, but that's again a stretch. A lot of these are stretches. To me, I think the one that would kind of make the most sense, not that I would like it, but it would be the best of a worst case scenario, would be James Franklin. The only one I will, and I'm meaning this, if this happens, I'm not kidding. We have recording of this. If they actually hire John Gruden, I'm not cheering for them. I'm sorry. I will be a USF fan full time because then I am not going to have a North Carolina, Colorado situation to my favorite team. I'm just going to wait out until that flames out and then cheer for them again. But if they're seriously going to think about doing that, I'm about cheering a football team, not a reality show.
Yeah, the John Gruden stuff is not reality. That guy's. I mean,
there's talks. I mean, like, there's people who.
No, it's his agent does that. He's done that for like 20 years. Even when he was with the Bucks, they would always have rumors that he was going to leave and go coach at Tennessee. Like they've had rumors with Gruden forever, and it's way to get him contract extensions and whatever. He hasn't coached in like 6 or 7 years
either.
and he hasn't coached college like ever. And he and also that stuff that he got accused of saying, like, no, like I don't want anything to do with that guy. Like I loved him for when I was younger and he was the head coach of the Bucks, but the more that I've seen of him, the less I like. And, whatever, man. John, just stay away from my teams. Just keep doing your unboxing of team support or whatever you do. Yeah. I don't have a desire to have you anywhere near the coaches, the teams that I love. But no, as far as the list, I mean, that seems like like the typical list. I know there's been like Brent Key and Summerall from Tulane, and I mean, even though Cignetti did sign that huge extension, Florida could still buy him out and bring him in, but it seems likely that he's going to stay at Indiana. Just seems like he seems happy there and like he wants to just ride it out, which probably, at his age makes sense. You don't want to sit there and like move a bunch at 60 whatever years old. But if he goes to Florida, Cignetti has a huge chance of winning right away, especially with what talent is there. That's what I think is like key with like this. Like, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when Napier got hired, there wasn't that much talent on this roster. So it was a huge rebuild. Like there was a lot of work to be done just to get to this point. So like now there is not that much work to be done. Like some like holes to fill, maybe like bring in some more D-line, some safety help, whatever. But like besides that, everything's kind of ready to go. If you have a good enough offensive play caller, you should be able to score points with this team. Like minimum, you should be scoring 30, 35 points a game. I feel like this is a very attractive job. Like you said, the upgrades with the facilities, the swamp stuff, whatever. I mean, looks like there's less seats being taken out, which I'm grateful for. But we'll see what happens there. But, it's talent-rich state. The recruiting is still there for this school. It's got the pedigree. It has 3 championships. There is plenty of buy-in from the boosters. So, like, there is a desire for this school to be good. And it's like, there's a lot to like. And I think like the difference between 4 years ago is this is a ready, tailor-made team to like jump into the playoff next year. Like if the right coach comes in, it goes from what they are now, maybe a 6-6, 7-5 team to a potential, 9-3 at worst, and like maybe 11-1 team. Like they literally are that good that they could turn it on next year. I know it. Like I see the talent on this team. It is clearly begging to be given leadership that can take them to the next level. And I feel like, whoever it is, if it's Cignetti, if it's Lane Kiffin, if it's Marcus Freeman, if it's Matt Rule, if it's whoever, I mean, the one that I don't like out of that list that you gave, I just don't like James Franklin. Like,
yeah,
we've seen.
It's just one I would be like, you know what, I won't like it, but I get it. Like, I would see the other one. I forgot to, and this also came up. The only problem was he literally just got hired at Washington. Was Jed Fish because he was with a graduate assistant with Spurrier, obviously
Right.
an alum. Yeah. Did a really good job at Arizona, and he's doing pretty good at Washington. So that was another one I could see them, tempting back over, especially because he's got really good connections. But at least with the Franklin one is like, again, the best of a worst case scenario would be him.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's with Franklin, he cannot win the big game, and he has a proven track record. Like that's the thing. It's like, it would be one thing if it's only a couple of years with Franklin, but it's literally like 10 years, the same thing over and over again. And it's like, I know what we'd get. We'd get the same thing. We'd win 10 games a year, and then we'd never win a playoff game. That's exactly what would happen. Yeah. We'd get in and we'd lose every single big game in the playoffs that we'd have. And I'm like, I'm good on that. Like, at this point, I'm championship or bust. We have the talent. We have the facilities. Let's go for broke. Let's try to make this happen. Like, this is like a very close to a Zook situation where Zook, got the engine running, and then Urban Meyer came in and, got the wheel and just took off, like it wasn't great that first year under Urban. They went like 9-3, but the next year won a national championship. Year after that got a Heisman. Year after that got another championship. And the year after that were this close to getting another one. So, that is definitely possible with what they have here. They just got to get the right hire. And the great thing is they fired now instead of waiting like another month. Now they got a huge jump on this. There's a huge window here to get this. You can contact the right people, contact the right guy, get in with them, like understand this person, do the research, figure this out. It's going to be, obviously if teams are in the playoffs, there'll be issues there trying to get the right coach, but I think it is what it is. And I think they're in the right situation now. And what I'm excited about is they fired him before the Georgia game instead of like seemed like every time that we fired a coach, it
was
comes after the
game.
Georgia game,
Yeah.
and then we lose that game, and it's like, no, fire him before so we have an actual shot at this. And we've got the bye week. You know, you got Billy Gonzalez taking over, and shout out to Billy because Billy Gonzalez has been with Florida off and on for like 20 years, and the guy like bleeds orange and blue. He gets a shot as a head coach. I'm really kind of it's an intriguing choice, but I think it's the right one because he knows the university better than anyone else that's on the staff, and like, good for him. I'm glad to see he gets this time to shine, and maybe he gets a small head coaching job somewhere from it. Like, that would be pretty cool. Or he stays at Florida. I don't know, but either way, it's cool to see him as the head coach. I want to see what they do offensive play calling wise. Let's just throw the ball all over the place. I want to see some points, and I feel like Georgia is, privy to that. Their defense is not very good this year, and they give up points. And I feel like Florida can score at least 30 plus on them, given the right mixture of play calling. So, do you have any more thoughts before we move on? Because this has been long-winded.
I mean, again, it's how I feel. Like, I feel like Frodo. Just like, I don't care if the Eagles or the lava takes me. I'm just glad it's over.
Okay, so now on to the Week 8 recap. We're going into the rest of our show. Bearing with us, I know it's huge, like a slow news day, but here we go. We're gonna bear with it. Okay. The first game of the week that we covered was Louisville, Miami, and I purposely did not pick them because I was hoping if I could do like the jinx, like non-pick jinx, and it worked. So there you go, Miami fans. I did it on purpose, and you lost. So there you go. And I kind of knew that Miller Moss was going to have a good game. I just was aware of his turnover proneness, and I was like worried that he was going to throw some picks or fumble or something, but he really didn't do any of it. And, Louisville, with the quick game, was able to get the ball out and nullify Miami's pass rush ability. And so Miami really couldn't stop their offense for the most part. And Louisville, they gave up some explosive to Miami, but again, Carson Beck, I knew he was going to implode. He's just an interception waiting to happen. And, he's got 7 on the year, and he had 4 on Friday. Just imploded. Last play of the game, they just need to hit a field goal, and he some reason throws this little out route that the linebacker nickelback, figures it out and cuts in front of it. And it's just like, man, dude, this guy, I know that, there was like hype for him to get the Heisman, but I'm glad that this showed through because he does not deserve it. He is going to be a average at best quarterback in the NFL. And, the kid's he's just not very good. He is like okay at certain things. He's had a lot of really good playmakers around him that have made plays. I just don't think he's that good of a quarterback. He is mistake prone. He had 3 interceptions last year against Florida. He had 2 against him this year. He just makes a lot of mistakes that, a guy that's in his 5th or 6th year, whatever, he's been around forever.
Yeah.
And like, it's kind of ridiculous. It's like, dude, you need to like have this stuff figured out by now, but I don't think he ever will. Malachi Toney obviously is the real deal. Freshman wide receiver, just putting up huge numbers. Basically the only thing they have outside of CJ Daniels in the passing attack. But they didn't really run the ball that well. Louisville did. And, Miller Moss made enough plays to win it. And dude, the wide receiver for Louisville, Bell, dude, that guy had a monster game. That kid is fast, man, for how big he is. Like, he's a huge guy, and he moves like lightning. Like, he's super quick. But your thoughts on this game, Ian?
So I'm going to say 2 things, and one of them is on Miami fans and one of them is on the coaching. Clearly, okay, somehow, some way, Mario Cristobal in Miami finds a way to lose these games. And that last interception was, again, coaching malpractice. You were inside the 30, or like you're in field goal range. You're well within field goal range.
Yeah.
And you're still throwing the ball. I get you don't have timeouts. I get that you're in a hurry up. But why are you still throwing these long, developing stretch pass plays where it's forcing Beck to throw it? Beck rightfully threw 4 interceptions that should be getting the blame. But that game plan was absolutely atrocious because there was no passing, no rhythm passing. There wasn't anything to help his confidence, it was always like medium or deep routes when that was clearly not working. It was always like first check down and 500 dead or alive is what it seemed like. So to me, I was on coaching because I said you cannot with a quarterback like Beck. And the reason Beck was looking so good is that they were playing to his strengths. Short, medium passing, let the wide receivers do the work. Miami's got great wide receivers, and if they can get that separation like they did against Florida State, like they did against Notre Dame, that's all he has to do. But no, it was awful game planning. And Louisville was doing everything possible to let them win the game.
Yeah.
Beck throws a deep ball in a triple coverage, gets picked off, and Louisville immediately fumbles. They score, and then nothing. And you're in field goal range, and then you force this like out route that gets tipped and picked. I don't know why you're throwing, at least, or why you're throwing, a pass that deep for an out route. I get you have to go out of bounds, but it made no sense. And secondly, and this is a personal thing, Miami is, by the stats, out of the big three, Florida State, Miami, the most, I guess, trophy case full program. They have the most national titles of any team in the state. They have the most All-Americans, most NFL guys, and arguably one of the greatest teams, both the 1987 and 2001 team. They are the number 2 team in the country. Why were there more empty seats than fans? Again, I'm sorry. That's me on the Miami fan base because Florida's just sold out their homecoming game with a coach that was dead and buried. This is a completely personal point, but it really annoys me seeing a team like Miami where nobody shows up. And that's not on Miami, that's on the fan base. Yeah. Where are you guys? This was supposed to be a team to go back to the national championship, and you again did not show up. And honestly, might have been a good thing, but that's still no excuse not how a number 2 team in the country couldn't even fill their own stadium.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of excuses for that because they're like, oh, it's Miami, there's tons to do, but you're the number 2 team.
It wasn't a problem before the old Orange Bowl, so what's the problem now? That's what I said.
You're the number 2 team in the country. You should be selling out your stadium regardless of what game it is. It's sad. It's pathetic. Okay, moving on. Because we're gonna have to move because we already did a half an hour on Billy.
Sorry.
LSU Vanderbilt wins 31-24. Pavia, huge game, doing his magic. They were 8 of 13 on conversions. And Nussmeier just kind of looked like he's been looking, not amazing. Kept him in the game, but, Vanderbilt was just the better team the whole day. And I don't know. It's just this LSU team, I think, just got highly overrated. They beat a bad Clemson team. They beat a, terrible offense in Billy Napier's Florida Gators. And they were like, oh, they're great. They're 4-0, whatever. And they'd since then they've lost 2 straight. So this LSU team is just kind of whatever. What are your thoughts on this one, Ian?
Yeah, just real quickly. This is one of those games where one team wanted it more, just flat out. Yeah. Vandy wanted this win bad, and they got it. And it is insane that we live in a timeline where Vandy was favored at home and won against LSU.
That's crazy.
But it was obviously a great win for Vanderbilt. LSU's defense, which was the crux of how they were going to win a lot of these games, had no answer for both Pavia running or passing. It was all about getting that 3rd, 4th, and short and manageable situations that Vandy exploited. And LSU's offense, again, they got 24 points, but again, it just has been stuck in the mud. It's funny because that's what, Brian Kelly said there wasn't a problem, but it's an issue. It's a legit issue how it's just been stuck in first gear.
Yeah, it definitely looks like a problem. Okay, Moving on to Georgia Tech Duke. This game was kind of like very like just back and forth. There was a point where the score was 7-7 and they were like moving the ball, both teams, but nobody was scoring, and like they just would like have long drives and then like turn the ball over or like punt it to the other team. And it was like, what is going on? This game is very weird. And then Georgia Tech started scoring in the second half, and they went up pretty a decent number there. And Duke was able to score late to make it a 27-18 game, get the 2-point conversion, and then Georgia Tech holds on and wins. Tech, a very balanced team. They run the ball extremely well, and Haynes King does the things necessary. I mean, if Haynes King is not in your Heisman standings right now, like I think if he continues this out, like he's got to be in New York. Like at least, like if they have 5 guys go, like Haynes has got to be one of them because he puts up good numbers every week. He's the reason this team is winning. And, like Duke is not a terrible team. They put up 441 yards of offense, and Mensa's a really good quarterback. And yet this game was never really like out of, like the probability of Georgia Tech winning this game was pretty high almost the whole way through. So credit to Tech. Again, their schedule after this is pretty easy. They have Syracuse, NC State, BC, Pitt. Like they should easily be favored in all 4 of those games. Again, the Georgia game, it's a non-conference, so it may not be that detrimental. But if they win their ACC games, get to the ACC championship game, they have a real shot at getting to the playoffs. So your thoughts, Ian?
Yeah, and same thing as you said. Georgia Tech, I mean, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. They got some lucky plays, especially that fumble return. That was their first touchdown.
Oh, yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, but yeah, it was not their cleanest game. It was a very like ugly kind of win, but that kind of is a credit to Duke because they were hanging in there. They just couldn't get the ball across the goal line. I feel like for Duke, this is a big missed opportunity because they clearly, in my opinion, looked like the better team most of that game. They just couldn't get their job done. But when you're a team like Tech, you've been in those games, you find a way to win, and I don't think Duke is there yet.
All right, moving on to Washington, Michigan. This is the first time that Damon Williams has finally looked kind of human. He had 3 interceptions. Bryce Underwood looked better, but it was mainly Michigan's, ability to move the ball here on the ground and enough in the air to be able to thwart Washington here. Jordan Marshall with a huge game. Washington came in with 1 loss. Now they've got 2 losses. And Michigan with 2 losses now has a lot to play for. I don't think they'll beat Ohio State, but they've beaten Ohio State the last 3 years. So we'll see. They have some easy ones the next 4 weeks. Michigan State, Purdue, Northwestern, Maryland. They should easily win all those games. So they're going to come into that Ohio State game with only 2 losses potentially. And that's going to be a 9-2 Michigan team going up against a 11-0 Ohio State team. So that should be a really massive game. And it's in the Big House too. So a lot to play for Michigan, considering they have a freshman quarterback. If they win that game, a lot to play, a lot going forward as well. But if they lose against Ohio State, it'll be just another Orange Bowl or whatever basic bowl game, Citrus Bowl game that they'd play. But your thoughts, Ian?
Yeah, and I agree. This game was a lot about Michigan's defense. This was a huge bounce back after getting carved up by USC, especially with how good Desmond Williams has looked. It was very impressive to see Michigan kind of step up. A lot of the problem, though, did come from the fact that it became a very predictable offense. They knew they were in a pass-heavy type of mode because the running game just was not there. They tried to break through the interior in the middle, and Michigan wasn't having that. They like throughout their history of the last 10, 15 years, Michigan barely lets you run up the middle for more than 3 yards. So good win. Again, great job by Michigan's defense to hold Washington to 7. But yeah, offensively, still would like to see more, but they get the win regardless. And yeah, the path is clear now for another huge matchup between them and Ohio State.
Okay, moving on to Oklahoma, South Carolina. Man, the South Carolina team is just vastly disappointing considering all the potential and hype they had. They did lose a ton off that team from last year, especially on the defense. So they haven't really been able to stop too many people. Lenore Sellers just kind of, I don't know. It just seems like he's struggling really to deal with the pressure of the defense's D line's getting back to him. So he's not able to really have any time at all back there. And granted, Oklahoma does have one of the best D lines in the country, so everyone's going to look bad offensive line wise against them. But they couldn't really get anything going offensively. They only scored 7 points. Oklahoma scores 26. They threw 2 interceptions, one off a fake punt. They had 6 sacks that South Carolina allowed. So it's just, I don't know. I mean, I thought this game was going to go like it did. It really went like what I thought it would. Napier looked better, which is good for Oklahoma going forward. So maybe they'll be able to make something of this season more than just like a 9-3 season. Maybe they can make it like a 10-2, get into the playoff. But, South Carolina, it's kind of done. 3-4, I don't envision them having a anything better than what they're at right now. They may win 3 more games at best. And the schedule just gets even harder because they have Ole Miss, they've got Alabama, they've got A&M. It is a brutal stretch the next 3 weeks. What do you got?
This is another one of those games where, a team that needed a good bounce back. Not that Oklahoma had a bad game against Texas defensively, but they really showed out because obviously South Carolina was throwing everything in the kitchen sink at them, and that defense wasn't having it. They did get the 2 turnovers, especially on that punt. The one thing that I'm very worried about is that Oklahoma, again, penalty-wise, that was almost 100 yards in penalties. I saw the stat when it popped up on the game. It was 10 penalties or something like that, and they had a lot of penalties in the Texas game that made it instead of 2nd and 6, now you're dealing with 2nd and 11 or 3rd and 12. So
yeah.
That's something that obviously needs to be fixed. Clearly, he only had 100. Yeah, it was 150 yards, but it was more efficient. And I think after the Texas game, they're kind of reeling it back and being like, okay, let's make sure you're 100% because I still don't know if he really is until we really open up the playbook. But they took care of business, got the job done, and it's a good bounce back win after losing to Texas.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Yeah, if Napier can just get back to some normal health and they'll ramp up the playbook a little bit here, I think they'll be fine. Okay, moving on. I called the upset and it was so close, dude. I was, Taylon Green went out at one point and I thought he was not coming back, and he came back and just was running all over them and making plays, and Arkansas just could not stop A&M's offense. They were just scoring at will, and Arkansas was right there with them though to the very end. And credit to Arkansas, they could have just turtled up and gave up, but no, they really played hard, and the offense looks better, but again, it's the defense is so bad that they cannot stop anyone. They haven't stopped anyone all year. And A&M wins 45-42. Your thoughts, Ian?
Yeah, and there's something with Bobby Petrino having a hex on A&M or something, because they brought that up, that he has historically just run up the score and yardage count against A&M, and I know there was a lot of Aggies sweating bullets through that whole game thinking it was about to, become prophesized. But yeah, they got, I mean, again, better to be lucky than good. It was the one thing too is that a lot of the game for Arkansas did rely on Green, and they also had the running attack of Washington. But it was like Green had to do a lot of plays himself, and God bless him, because he was the engine to that offense.
Yeah.
But A&M, they hunkered down, they found a way to win, and yeah, they were. I mean, clearly they were up. They got that touchdown. They were up 10, but you got to find a way to squeeze these teams' life out. You're up 10 twice, and you still ended in a 3-point game. You can't let a team like Arkansas get back into the game like that.
Okay, moving on to Ole Miss, Georgia. Ole Miss was up by 9 with I can't remember how much time was left, but I saw as I was back and forth between some games, and they were up, and I'm like, okay, 2 scores, that's a big enough advantage. They should be able to keep pace there and maybe win this out. And then Georgia goes on a 17-0 run to end the game, and it's just man. Ole Miss's defense, bless you. Ole Miss's defense is just not good enough. They beat LSU, but LSU's offense is not that great. Georgia's offense, I will say, has been better this year, better than last year, because Beck was kind of limited with them, but this offense seems to be clicking, and credit to Stockton, because I was not the biggest believer in Stockton, but again, he has not played a very good defense yet. So outside of Alabama, which they lost to. So if he goes and plays against a better defense and the team also has a really good offense, I feel like they should lose most of those games. And, Georgia just right now defensively is not very good. They're nowhere near what they used to be. I don't know if it is just not enough talent on the roster or what, but Kirby's just getting out schemed left and right. There are points to be had on this team, and I feel like that opens the door in 2 weeks for Florida. But your thoughts on this one, Ian?
The one deciding thing, and I remember thinking this, yeah, they're up 9, but this is a shootout, and Georgia's already been here, and they were on the road at Rocky Top. So I was not comfortable going into that fourth quarter thinking dude, Ole Miss, as much as they got to find a way to step up defensively. And the problem was they could not stop that run game. It was over 200 yards of rushing, and then you had almost 300 yards passing. Regardless, if you just rely on the run that well, the typical play action, medium range passes, Georgia will find them. It is their bread and butter, and they will find a way to win. And that is on Ole Miss's defense, not even slowing down the run game at all really impeded them, because they couldn't, they didn't know what was coming. And for Ole Miss, what I was surprised the most of is guys like Kawan Lacey were held to pretty much nothing and had to be Trinidad Chambliss for most of the game. And credit, again, great talent, got a lot done. But Georgia, I know, they came back to win, but I was they kind of proved they were the better team. They were better on offense and, both running and passing, and on defense. They came up clutch and having, what was it? Yeah, 17 unanswered. Yeah, the whole fourth quarter. It just proved it. And as long as that team on the other sideline is not Alabama, it seems like Georgia can find a way to sneak out of these.
Yeah, and in this game, no turnovers between the two teams, and there were only 2 punts. So they were both of these teams, and there was only one other turnover on down. Every possession turned into points except for 3. That's remarkable. That's how bad the defenses were in this game. So, okay, let's move on to I'm just going to talk about it real quick. SMU, Clemson. I didn't watch the highlight package. Didn't have enough time. SMU gets the win. Jennings looked good. Klubnik wasn't even in this game.
Yeah.
Vizina was playing. Any thoughts before we move on?
I'll say this. Vizina actually looks pretty good. He had the 3 touchdowns and stuff.
Yeah.
Clemson didn't go away until late, but I mean, he at least looked like a competent, backup and future starter. But I mean, this was SMU's game the whole time. They had their way with Clemson's defense.
Okay, moving on. Any thoughts from Florida, Mississippi State? We don't have to really talk about it if you don't have any thoughts.
They won despite Billy Napier's best efforts.
Okay, moving on. Oregon, Rutgers. Man, I didn't even watch the highlight package, but like Oregon, I thought they were going to win this game pretty pretty easily, but man, they just dominated. And the quarterback for Rutgers only had 79 yards, 2 interceptions, just a complete annihilation. Dante, I tell you, man, Dante Moore looks great.
Yeah.
I've been a huge fan of his since he was at UCLA, and I wish he would have stayed, but he's doing great with Oregon. And 750 total yards. Oh my Lord. That is a murdering. And Rutgers only had 202, 750 to 202. I mean, that is a stomping. That is like not even close. Like not even the same like stratosphere. Just wow, pathetic. And really the game was a lot closer because Oregon had 3 turnovers.
Yeah.
Like besides that, it probably would have been even worse. You have any thoughts on this one?
See, Penn State, that's how you go cross country after a really tough loss and beat a team that is like inferior to you. Because Rutgers was in the same boat. They still haven't won a Big Ten game. I mean, yeah, they've won 3 games, but they haven't won a Big Ten game. And Oregon went across the country, took care of business, and that 3 turnovers is especially something they had to clean up. But that defense still is really good and showing that even with inferior talent, they can, still just strangle them. But yeah, it was all Oregon the whole game, and yeah.
All right, moving on to Washington State, Virginia. This game was very close to the very end. It looked like Virginia was going to go down. And credit to Washington State because they've had 2 tough games in a row, and they came to play. But Virginia gets the win. You have any thoughts on this one?
Never been a while since I've seen a game end in a safety like that, but that was that's a first. But yeah, Virginia, talk about, we were talking about Georgia's fourth quarter comeback. Yeah, it was something like 15 unanswered points against Washington State. And I mean, again, for Washington State, this is a game after Ole Miss too. Like, man, you had it. You had it, and you just can't get the job done. But at least it just shows promise that they can at least be in these games. And I know they play I think they play like Toledo, and obviously they're going to have one of the double headers with Oregon State. But they're definitely, like, it's funny to say, but they're kind of favored in the pack too, based on their recent games, despite them losing.
How did this happen that they're playing Oregon State twice? How is this a thing?
It's the Pac-2. Like, scheduling wise, it's like when you had before the realignment, they had to figure out how to fill the empty spots, and not enough teams were available, so they were just like, screw it, you're playing each other twice.
That's crazy. Wild. Okay, moving on. Maryland, UCLA. This game, man. UCLA. It's so funny because it's like they were basically left for dead, in the. Why is this not going? Hold on a second. Oops. Oh, I'm not connected. Hold on a second. Come on now. There it is. Okay. They were like left for dead, and this team, I tell you, man, it's like, this is why I wanted to fire Billy Napier, because I was like, if they fire Billy Napier, at least it like kind of lights a fire under these kids and like really like kicks them in gear. You keep this guy on, and it's like, it's just the same doldrums, same problems. But look, Jerry Neuheisel comes in, and the offense just starts clicking. And Nico did not look great in this game. He had like 3 turnovers, 2 picks, and a fumble. But man, Frias, I think that's how you say the running back's name. 4 carries, like 100 yards, basically. Kid was a monster out there. Malik Washington for Maryland did enough. Like they were in the game the whole time, and it was back and forth. They tied it late to 17-17. And then Nico just with like 30 seconds left, just gets him down the field. They got like 75 yards in like 3 plays or some crap.
Yeah.
It was super quick. And they get in field goal range, which was obviously inside the 5 because they got so close, and they kick the field goal and win it. And it's just like, man, like this team, just imagine if they had any kind of semblance of anything to begin the year, they would be right now like 5-2, 6-1. Like really, like I'm not even like
because they could have easily beaten teams like New Mexico,
UNLV, all of it. They would. I don't know if they would have beaten Utah, but like they would have been a lot closer if they had just any offense in that Utah game. Maybe that game's like at least close, and that's probably the one they would have lost for sure. But man, I'm just like, that's why I was like so high on them. It was like there is talent here, and like just seemed like, you know, with Nico, there's some possibility with things, and it's just like, man, it's crazy. And like it's still possible with like everything, like Big Ten stuff. Like they're like, I think they're 4th in the Big Ten right now, which is like just bizarre to like go 0-4 and to now be that high up in the standings. Just crazy. Do you have any thoughts on this one before we move on?
No, you hit all the points that I was going to make. Yeah, it was getting very scary, and I thought the Magic ran out, but you know, somehow, some way, the Magic returned, especially in that last drive. But they get the win. The schedule, though, definitely gets tougher. I don't think they're really. I mean, they weren't favored in a lot of these games, but now I think they got to play Indiana. I know that obviously they end with SC in the Battle of LA, and I think they play Washington too. So those
and Ohio State.
And Ohio State. So the road to a bowl game is really a lot tougher now. But this has been a wild season, so you never know.
Yeah. Crazy. Okay, moving on. We got Alabama, Tennessee, 3rd Saturday in October, and I want to hear your thoughts on this one.
I knew this game was over as soon as that interception happened because it was the same way when Garetano fumbled the ball and returned it for the touchdown. I was like, I literally thought I was watching the same. Like I had deja vu.
Like replay.
Yeah, and this was a credit to Alabama's defense. They bent, but they didn't break, and that is like that was insanely crucial because I think they were outgained by Bama. Tennessee outgained Bama. I think Tennessee had 400 yards or something like that. They did
10 to 373.
Yeah, but they got that pick on Aguilar, and the offense. I'm not going to say the offense was bad for Bama, but I mean, Jam Miller and the running attack wasn't really as effective as I expected. Yeah. But Ty Simpson did enough. He had like 250 something yards. And Ryan Williams had another big game. I don't think he got a touchdown, but he got like 80 something yards or something.
Yeah, 87. Yeah.
But when it came down to it, once they got that 10-point lead, I was thinking like, okay, DeBoer is smart enough now not to let this slip away because obviously Tennessee is going to throw everything they got on you. But that defense didn't break. That's a big win for me. I said that was beginning of the year and still going into the year. This was the game they had to win. You cannot lose 2 years in a row, and especially at home to Tennessee, no matter what Tennessee is throwing at you. So now Bama gets a huge win. They're still undefeated in SEC play, and the schedule isn't looking too bad. I mean, they play South Carolina, and then they have a game at home against LSU that they can win. Oklahoma, depending on Mateer's health, that might be a toss-up, but it's at home again. And then they have a layup against thank you. And then the Iron Bowl. God knows what happens when it's in between the hedges. But
they could still lose a game and still get in the playoff. And I don't think anybody wants to play this team in the playoff. Like this team is definitely poised to like go on a run. And it's nowadays where it's like the playoff is 12 teams, you don't have to win the conference to really like set yourself up. You just need to get in the thing, because an Alabama home game is going to be so raucous and so rowdy, and like they're going to easily win that one, and then they'll play whoever, and it's like, honestly, man, Alabama's dangerous coming into this setup. So they still have a game to lose if they need, but I think they'll be fine, because like you said, they should beat South Carolina and they should beat LSU. The Oklahoma game is the one that I'm really kind of like, I don't know what to make of it, and we won't know until we see Napier in the next 2 weeks. But yeah, like, huge place for them to be. You have any more thoughts on this before we move on?
I'll say for Tennessee, I mean, I'm not going to jump on them, even though as much as I hate them, they did like I do. I'm sorry, they're one of the
I know.
three axis of evil for me, but they, they're not there yet. They're close.
Yeah.
They are really close, especially with that Georgia game. But they're getting there. It's a tough place to win in general. They did what they could, but yeah, after that interception, it was like I didn't see Bama losing the game.
Okay, moving on to USC Notre Dame. Just a terrible way to lose this game. I mean, yep. USC was winning, and it seemed like things were going their way. And they just, honestly, they could not stop Price and Love. Price has that kickoff return for a touchdown. And then the biggest mistake was the wide receiver pass where Lemon was going to pass and he fumbles it, and Notre Dame picks it up. And it's like, man, why are you doing that kind of play call in the rain? And a lot of people were talking about it on Twitter. It is what it is. The game was pretty sloppy. Maeva had a couple of picks. King Miller was all right in the game. It's just, I don't know. The defense didn't really come to play. They could not contain Price and Love. And, Love had 228 yards on the ground. Just a ridiculous day for him. And then, Carr didn't even throw the ball that much. Price had 87 yards on the ground to go on with his kickoff return for a touchdown as well. And it's a shame, because if USC wins that game, they have a real good path to getting to the playoff. Now they have to win out, and, they have a tough schedule. They have Oregon on the road. That UCLA game is going to be tough. Now, the rest of them seem actually kind of manageable. Nebraska, Northwestern, Iowa. It really is those last 2 weeks, Oregon, UCLA. So we'll see what happens. But it's a tough road. They've got to be perfect to go the rest of the way, because I don't think a 9-3 Big Ten team gets in. They don't have enough big wins to really push their resume forward. What are your thoughts?
Do you want the stat? I mean, like, obviously that kick return you can't do anything about. I mean, you can try to stop them, but that just happens. And that was such a momentum killer, because they just scored, took the lead, and gave it right back to Notre Dame. But if you want a stat to how and why they lost, Notre Dame had over 300 yards rushing. USC only had like 68.
Yeah.
You're going to lose any game when the discrepancy is that bad.
Right.
And especially if you give up 300 yards, I don't care who it is and who it is to, you can't have that, especially in this kind of game, because you can't stop the run. It is tough to get that defense off the field, especially when they were averaging, like, every run was 5-6 yards per average.
Yeah.
That's a first down almost every run. Every 2 runs, it's a first down. So you're asking a lot for your defense now. And yeah, the combination of Love and Price. Love had his breakout game, and he picked the best game for it. That was the preseason Heisman favorite.
Yeah.
I've been waiting to see, and he had a fantastic breakout game. And Maeva, I mean, again, yeah, King Miller and guys like Jackson, they just had nothing. It became a one-dimensional kind of typical Lincoln Riley offense, and Maeva did what he could, but it wasn't enough, especially with how well equipped Notre Dame was against the pass. But yeah, I don't know how you're in a rivalry game, especially this one. You're that close, and you're just calling a wide receiver pass. That seems like you're doing too much there. But no, Notre Dame, they deserve to win. They got the win. It's a really tough one for USC, because this is one that slipped away. They could have had it, and they just, they couldn't stop the run and they couldn't stop Notre Dame from scoring.
Okay, let's move on to FAU USF homecoming, another homecoming game.
Yeah. A much more fun one.
Yeah, and Byram looked great in this game. Defense was allowing FAU in the first half to really move the ball, but they allowed a touchdown late or early in the third quarter, and then after that, they really didn't allow much at all for FAU. I did note when I was looking at the stats, and I was like, 7 of 8 on fourth down. That is like absurd territory right there. And I know they go for it a lot. So I was like, it's par for the course for FAU, but I'm just like 7 of 8. That is absurd. Like, that's just so ridiculous. But no, man, the team looked great. Balanced again, 263 passing to 259 running. Like, it's like directly down the middle. This team is on fire right now. They're just scoring points at will against these American Conference teams. They look awesome. The defense is doing amazing things. And it sets up next week against Memphis. And lo and behold, Memphis loses the game. So now there won't be game day at that game. But whatever, it doesn't matter. It'll still be a huge game. It's on ESPN2. So a lot to play for next week. But just a great feeling that this team is like, just holding serve. They're 6-1. Besides this Memphis game, UTSA and Navy are going to be tough games, but then they got UAB and Rice after that. So really, it's just got to keep plugging away and doing the things that you can do. And I feel like USF is on the verge of finally getting to a conference championship game, which would be amazing. And if they're good enough that they can get it to, you knock on wood, yeah. And they can get to, maybe a playoff. And it's like, just from where they were during the Jeff Scott era to now, it's such a amazing feeling, and I'm loving it. And the crowd was there. That was one of the biggest crowds USF has had in a long time. And it was like the biggest homecoming crowd since like 2009. I'm like, man, things are turning around. And like people were talking about it online where it's like, maybe now they need to be rethinking about the size of the stadium, because like if they can get like minimum 42,000, they need to maybe make the stadium a little bit bigger, just because it's like, they're going to be packed and there's going to be demand for people to come. So we'll see. I mean, it's a great feeling. I love this team, and I'm glad they're doing so well. You have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, and with this, especially after Memphis's loss to UAB, I mean, the door is open, especially when teams like Tulane still got to play Memphis. Navy has to play North Texas at North Texas again, and then they play USF, and they're at Memphis as well. There's a chance USF could get home field advantage in this, but obviously we're thinking down the road here. The main thing is one game at a time, and this goes without saying, and I mean this. This Memphis game might be the biggest game since the 2017 game against UCF. Because if you take care of business and you get the job done, the path is clear. You don't clinch it, but you're almost there. But obviously, one game at a time, just take care of Memphis. They did a great job taking care of business against FAU. That's the thing I love, is that we saw in the years past, even under Golish, there were games they dropped that they shouldn't have. And now they're just taking whatever team, like Charlotte, FAU now, hell, even North Texas, they're getting it done. They're showing how much better they are, and they just need to keep that momentum going. They're going in with all the momentum in the world, and we'll just hopefully it keeps moving forward. Not going to say anything yet because you have Aggie syndrome. I have Bull syndrome. I'm used to this like not panning out, but I'm going to keep my fingers crossed.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting. It really is. Okay, last two. We got the Holy War. I want to hear your thoughts on the Holy War.
God, I love this rivalry. Dude, it's all like, again, another great close game. Two teams that were, playing each other. One of them flops, but easily could have, had a fight. I think there was a fight like in the crowd. I mean, it's beautiful. It's what college football is all about. But yeah, this game was between two teams that were dead even, and when it came down to it, BYU just made the bigger plays. I mean, Utah had almost 100 more yards than BYU, but BYU was playing keep away. They, shot themselves in the foot less. I think Utah had over like 12 penalties that was just killing them, and they had the 2 turnovers. So defense really stepped up against Napier. But yeah, that, especially that touchdown where they, Bachmeier's, run where they went up like 24-10 or 24-14. That was, seeing that crowd react because they know how big of a game this is. Again, fantastic game. They got the job done because by that time they bled so much of the clock that Utah could score, but they just had to pray for the onside kick and they didn't. Great win for BYU in this team. For Utah, it's a tough one, but when your only 2 losses are to Tech and to, BYU, it's not that bad of a look. It is because you lost to BYU, but that's your most hated rival. So yeah, that's not going to feel good, but still, nothing more I could say. Just another fantastic game. I always look forward to this, and it did not disappoint.
Yeah, and I mean, Bear Bachmeier is a freshman, and the kid is just like proving himself every game. Like the kid is nails, man, and like he has every way to improve, and he already looks really good. And like this team, this team is like poised to make a run here, and they're 7-0. They got Iowa State next week, Texas Tech after that, TCU, Cincinnati. So it is a gauntlet here. And so we'll see what they really are. But I feel like they can go 2-2 in that run, and then they're 10-2 potentially. That's maybe enough to get into the playoffs. So exciting to see for this team. And I know all their fans are pumped, and it's like, BYU, like it's crazy, man. There are a ton of playmakers on that team. With Chase Roberts, right, the wide receiver, that kid is a stud. There's just a ton to like about this team. Like I've always said, the coach has them very detail orientated. They don't make mistakes. Like they only had 5 penalties to Utah's 12. Like they just did the little things to make the difference, and they make that interception late, and they pulled it off, and they're doing really well. It's remarkable. They were great last year, and I think they're even better this year, which is crazy to think. Okay, Ian's G5 game of the week. Go ahead, Ian.
Called it. They can't win in Idaho. They just can't. There's some, potato hex on the Rebels that they just cannot win on blue turf. It's just what it is. There's nothing more I can say. Boise State had an insane second half surge, and they were just dominating this whole game. Boise State just proved they were the better team this whole game. And now, Boise State's undefeated in conference play. And if the thing goes the way it's supposed to, they would have home field advantage again for the conference championship if they do remain undefeated in Mountain West play, which is a very real possibility because they're better than Nevada, Fresno State. I think San Diego State might be a bit tougher, but Colorado State still, but Utah State, they can win these games. And then UNLV, same thing. They can really run through this. And then UNLV's worst case scenario, you got to go back on their turf, their blue turf, and try to win and do something you have never done. But I called it. And for Boise State, that was, a fantastic win. I'm still deciding them as my G5 team of the week still, but we'll get there.
Yeah, like Boise State, like they got like kind of beat pretty consistently or pretty badly against Notre Dame, and they got destroyed against USF. But outside of that, they've pretty much taken care of everyone else. And, we knew it. We talked about it. UNLV with Dan Mullen doesn't play defense, and they weren't going to play defense in this game. We knew that was going to be what happens. and they scored 56 points. It was not a surprise at all. UNLV still scored, which, credit to Dan. That's what he's good at. But, when you lose by 25, this game was never close. And, Boise State just, oh, man, they went on. I think they scored looks like almost 20 straight points there in the second half to really put them over. No, it was like 24, 25 straight points. Crazy. They just turned it on in the second half, and just UNLV was not good enough. Okay, that is the show. Big show. It's probably one of the longest shows we've done in a long while because there was a lot to talk about. Obviously, Billy is gone. Great things lie ahead for Florida. I hope they get this hire right. I really feel like they will. USF is doing well. USC, tough loss. And UCLA, man, things are turning up. It looks great for them. So a lot going on for all the 4 teams that we cover. But check us out at haterradio.com. Type in Hater Radio for all the socials. Ian, your socials before we go.
Yeah, at G5 Gibson on Twitter and at YouTube and Instagram. It's at G_Gator_G. Last thing, make it very quick. I did my G5 team of the week. I had to give it to UAB.
Yeah,
almost Boise State for that win, especially with how gutsy it was. And,
yeah.
But I expected it. They can't win. UAB, I didn't. And that was their first ranked win. I had to look it up since 2021. Last time they won the Stanley Cup. Thanks for reminding me, wife. But yeah, the great win for UAB, especially with the interim coaching staff. But they're my G5 team of the week.
Nice. Okay. We'll talk to you guys on Wednesday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care, y'all.